How's it going, folks? 8 p.m. Thursday night. You know what time that is. It's time for your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast. And this week, lots to get into, lots of moving parts, and lots of, I would say, unexpected things going on. Is Shane McMahon possibly, in some way, doing business with AEW? We got SummerSlam this weekend going down in Cleveland. We got to look at that. Lots of stuff going on there. And Joe Hendry may have the most unique deal in wrestling going on right now. We're going to look at all that and more. Stay with us, folks. Your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast starts right now.
Big Gold Belt, 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 Big Gold Belt. All I really want is that Big Gold Belt, 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 Big Gold Belt. All I really need, that Big Gold Belt.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast. I am Will, right here in the center of your screen. To my left, we got Silly Celis, and to my right, we got the Giant Crab Jamal with you here tonight. We got a lot to talk about. There is a lot going on in wrestling, a big weekend ahead with SummerSlam going down in Cleveland, and just, it seems like there's stuff happening just that it's not the normal kind of stuff that happens. There's very unique things happening this week. So, very interesting discussion I think we're going to have tonight in a number of different ways. Gentlemen, how's y'all's week been? Because I haven't seen y'all since a bit. Yes, it's hot.
Yeah,
it's hot. But good to be back, though. Had a little vacation away from the city, so I'm back.
Summer is being summer. That is for sure. And I'm ready for the heat to be done. Bring on autumn. Bring on autumn, please, and some cooler temperatures. But enough about the weather talk, enough about the heat. I'm sure we will get into a little bit of that later with SummerSlam, since they will be outside in Cleveland this weekend. But some very unexpected news this week that, sometimes we talk about stuff on here and it's rumors and we're not quite sure what it is, but how we got photographic proof on this one. So we know what happened. We know what happened. We got confirmation about it from people involved. Shane McMahon and Tony Khan had a meeting at an airport, apparently. And they had a little discussion about, I guess, wrestling and what's going on and business opportunities and all kinds of stuff like that. And the news broke the other morning, I guess yesterday morning is when all this came out. And we got photographic evidence of it, apparently courtesy of Mercedes Moné claims that she took the video that leaked out that shows them talking and Tony kind of looking like, what are you doing? Like he got caught in the act of something here. But the two of them were together and apparently had a little discussion. And we have a statement from Shane about it that we can get into a little bit later as far as his perspective on things. But this, of course, opened a whole can of worms. A whole can of worms. Of course, the people me like, Shane McMahon's going to AEW. Shane McMahon's gonna go to AEW and start wrestling. He's gonna start booking. He's gonna take over Ring of Honor. People's ideas and imaginations running wild with all this. So before we get into any of if there's games being played here or anything like that, let's treat this on face value that they're talking. Something may be afoot here. A very simple question to open this up. Is there a role for Shane McMahon in AEW? Celis, get in here.
So I'm going to take the words of my good friend Sean Carter and say that Shane McMahon is not a businessman. He is a businessman. And the reason why I want to say that is because Shane McMahon, definitely, we know what he's done in the ring. We know who he is based on being a McMahon himself. His father, we already know what he's done. But Shane is a very smart guy. Shane is a very savvy guy. So if Shane is doing something where it's going to be investing for him or be a part as an active member or do something to correlate some type of business venture, he's going to try to make it happen. Now, what that's going to be, I don't know. But the question that you ask here, is there a role for him in AEW? I think there's a role for Shane McMahon in any affiliation with wrestling if it's what he wants to do, if it's for the right price, and if it's for the right investment. Now, what that is, I still don't know. Is going to be, multitude of options that it could be. But I absolutely think that it could be a role for him. But I think the bigger question is this something, and I'm going to pull from Jamal here, is this something that you're going to care about? Is this something that's going to make moves? Is this something that's going to be a one-off? That's the bigger issue, because it's going to be a role for him. But is it really worth it? Is it really going to move the needle for AEW side? Or is this something that Shane's saying, let me take this under you and let me make it my own? That's the question to be seen.
So the question is there a place for Shane McMahon in AEW? The short answer is yes. Now, of course, there's a place for Shane McMahon with his almost generational knowledge of the inside of a wrestling business. He was right there when Vince himself climbed through the ranks and took over for his father and moved the family business forward. Now, whether or not why isn't Shane co-running WWE? Why isn't it a family business anymore? Well, we know things happen. However, the 90s happened to Vince, and then the 2000s caught up with him. So that's basically what it is. As far as Shane in any role in AEW, well, what would he do? Would Khan be okay with Shane becoming a booker? Would Khan be okay with Shane taking over marketing? Would Khan be okay with Shane being a producer? What area of expertise does Shane McMahon specifically bring to the table? I know Stephanie was in the writer's room for SmackDown for a time with her and Heyman and all the rest, and okay, fine, but what would Shane bring to the table other than just this is the way WWE did it, and it kind of worked for us, so this is what you guys could do as well? But one of the reasons why I haven't followed AEW so closely is because they're already starting to do that. Become more character driven, more storyline focused, and less just hard bell to bell wrestling. Yes, obviously some of the better matches in North America are going to be from a wrestling standpoint are going to be in AEW, but we're still starting to see more of these character driven storylines that take place over the course of 3-6 weeks, several months, the way they in a WWE fashion. So I honestly don't think that Shane McMahon was in Arlington, Texas to meet with Tony Khan about a job. Shane McMahon has a son that's playing football for University of Indiana. Tony Khan is the son of the works for the Jaguars in a lot of capacities, but is the son of the owner of the Jaguars. If you have a son that's about to be a junior or I believe he's going into his junior year, and you think that he could move to the next level, and you knew a guy in the position to where your kid is about to go, maybe you make a phone call. Maybe you fly to Arlington where he's going to be for the weekend, for the next couple weekends, because of the Collision and a Ring of Honor tapings. I'm not saying that Shane McMahon has money and he's begging for a job. I'm not at all. Hell, Shane McMahon could probably buy NWA and run it the way he wants if he really wants to run a business.
Yep.
I think we could pull together, right? Actually, sign up for Patreon. We're trying to buy NWA. But I really do think that one businessman to another, I don't think Shane has to go through Khan to get into wrestling. Because why would he go there over TNA? Why would he go there over starting his own thing or taking over a thing and just injecting cash?
Money ain't an issue if your name's McMahon.
Right. So it's not the money. So why wouldn't he take an indie startup, anywhere in the country and just build on that? Maybe use his name, maybe not, because the McMahon name definitely doesn't hold as much clout. But realistically, something that he may not know or have an inside track on is the next level for his son, who is either going to be or is a junior at the University of Indiana. And maybe this kid, Declan, I think his name is.
It is.
Is a prospect on the way up. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But realistically, if he's not, or if he's on the outside looking in, I would want to call a guy who knows, and Tony Khan is a guy who knows.
That's the first time I've heard the idea of his son and football possibly being part of that. So that's an interesting perspective here. Let's bring in the folks that are watching online right now on the live stream. All right, we got PAW on YouTube saying, this is the WCW buyout all over again. This isn't about a role. The McMahons are planning to buy the company as revenge and redemption for the family legacy. So taking over AEW. So maybe an offer was being made there in the airport. We also have Jordan Kirby. Shane is going to ruin AEW if he does make the jump. Oh, he's gonna kill it from the inside. He's going to inject it with the NWO cancer.
Oh no,
like
we got the vials of NWO. God help us. So then, to the first point, let's address that then.
Yeah.
So if it's the WCW buy all over again. The first question to that would be, why would Khan sell now? The second question to that would be, why AEW when there are other companies that have a much bigger legacy? NWA, TNA. Both of those could be up for grabs if the money's right. But then I don't think AEW, from a historical standpoint, is worth what they would want to sell it for. So I don't know about that. But if it is the WCW buy all over again, well, the McMahon and WWE era is dead and buried.
Yeah, and just to add to that, and tell me if I'm wrong too. So even though we had the buy on TV that it was seen, of course, the McMahon family purchased WCW and used Shane as a face for it. So it was a little kayfabe with it. However, in this situation, if Shane was to say buy AEW, would you think that's more on Tony Khan saying, hey guys, this is something I thought I could do, and now I can't do it anymore? And this is more of him giving up and trying to at least see him pass it on to somebody of a wrestling prodigy to see, okay, what can you do with this company? And I can sell before I lose it, or sell before I make it a loss, if that makes sense.
Now, to piggyback off that question, let's say that Khan is ready to divest. Maybe he just sells Ring of Honor to Shane McMahon.
Possibly.
Just as
Shane McMahon presents ROH.
Yeah. Maybe that could be a thing. Who knows? And it's weird because, like, the history, Shane McMahon doesn't really have like this whole wrestling. He left wrestling once, to do his own thing and start his own business.
Walked away before.
He's walked away before. He's walked away a couple times. And he's walked away again, most recently, directly before everything went down with Vince. So now the question is, hey, I'm ready to do it my way. Vince is out of the way. It's not a matter of me stepping in the shadow. I can make a play on a thing. And if I'm going to go all in, to use the term, then I might as well do it with AEW. To this point, 5 years, no profit. Daddy Khan is ready to pull the plug. Okay, let's say that that's the case then. I don't know about the no profit thing. That's pretty hard to prove, but let's assume that that's the case. What would Shane do differently that Tony couldn't? Because it's the same argument. Like AEW needs a better TV deal. Shane can't guarantee that.
Nope. AEW should run TV negotiations right now, as it stands. So I would think until you know how that plays out, you wouldn't be making moves like selling, unless like it's DOA or something.
And they've got the names they're bringing over too, so it's not like they can't get the names because the names are coming over.
Right. So then let's also say that if Khan is ready to fully divest, the slush fund is running out. This isn't a cute experiment anymore. We're several $100 million in the hole. Cool. Then I don't know if Shane has the capital alone to save the company. I mean, AEW is a corporation. They do work with partners to, generate revenue and then, turn it over to build the company. Okay, cool. What would that look like if AEW is let's just assume that they're on their last legs, they're hemorrhaging money, and this is actually closer to pre-ECW, when Heyman was writing bad checks, than Turner not wanting to give up WCW because he was just old and tired. If they really are hemorrhaging money hand over fist, does Shane McMahon pull it out of the fire with his own coin? I don't see that happening.
I don't either.
Why chase him good money after bad?
Our guy Paul has more to say here, but before we bring him in, let's get Shane's quote in here, since Shane was contacted last night by Bully Ray of all people, reached out.
Shout out to Bully Ray. Like, he has some good stuff on his podcast. So if you ever seen him do some speaking about the business or just talk. He has a great stuff. So look it up. I fully respect it.
All right. Well, he got a statement from Shane, and Shane's statement was, quote, Tony and I were connected through a mutual friend, and we had a great meeting. We talked about many things, but mostly about our shared love for the business and the rewards and challenges of working with family. I congratulated him on the 5-year anniversary of AEW and look forward to seeing how he evolves the business moving forward. End quote. So very generic, nothing much to its statement. Mm-hmm. Now, as far as funding goes, I got PAW here. He's got this all figured out. Vince is in the back shadows of it. Vince is going to fund this thing as long as he's at the public face. I'm sure there's a lot of people in wrestling. I think that this is the kind of stuff you'd hear from the old timers, who've been around forever. Vince is controlling everything from the shadows. Shane's the public face of it, but Vince will get it done from behind the scenes. The conspiracy's afoot.
No, I mean, fair enough. I mean, if Shane is on like his Dixie Carter arc, then this would be the way to do it. But I guess the question then would be, why spend more money for AEW, knowing that TNA is arguably right there for less, knowing that MLW is arguably right there for less, knowing that the NWA is right there for a chicken box from Royal Farms. It just seems like so much risk in a space where they're really risk averse, especially right now, considering that we don't know what this TV deal is going to look like. They're doing, AEW's done a lot of creative things, well, they're not selling our shows. Okay, cool. They rented one building for a month. Well, their pay-per-views are, it's too long for 2 pay-per-views. Well, you have more of them now. Well, I don't want to pay $50 where you can get the bundle in your country if there's applicable. Well, I hate Bleacher Report. Now they're on YouTube TV or in your country or whatever. So they're definitely looking to generate more revenue because business. I just don't know where Shane fits in that in like a upper level, CEO type of a way. I think if he were to come in on the wrestling side of it, maybe. But I also think that there are too many cooks in the kitchen in AEW, and we've also heard the long-standing rumors that the inmates are running the asylum, in the sense that it's more of a wrestler-driven show than actual producers that have hardline outlooks on things, which is why I think that Shane isn't really there for wrestling. He's there for football. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
One theory I heard that was interesting was the idea that they're in the midst of this TV negotiation, and it was simply just a matter of they were in the same area at the same time. They had a meeting, and that, maybe Shane's brain was picked for the idea of like Shane has experience dealing with, networks and stuff, and that side of things, these kind of business deals. And maybe it was a conversation more along those lines while they're in this negotiation with WBD. But I don't know, that strikes me as like, if I was Tony, I wouldn't want to be talking to a McMahon about like a delicate negotiation that's going on, especially when every rumor we've heard, including today, is that this is still ongoing and they may be entering now into the area where they are no longer exclusive to WBD and you could have outside suitors involved. Right. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. The football angle, though, that was really good. First time I've heard that outside the box idea there.
And that's just smart. That's just smart business. If you have the resources or availability to do that, why not? I thought that was fantastic, of a point that I didn't even think about. I forgot his son was still even playing college football, or now a junior, which, to your point, Jamal, is about to be draft status if he has a good year in the end of this year.
Yeah. So it would be interesting to see like what that means. Like, Shane isn't tied to anyone, so it's not like he's under contract. So of course, and also, Shane coming to Tony isn't the stretch that you think it is, because of the fact that Shane isn't. I don't know what he does for work, actually. I have no idea what his 9 to 5 is. So for him to just zip over to Texas to meet with Tony Khan about anything doesn't seem super far-fetched. Is Shane actually working? Like, does he have a 9 to 5? Or is he just rich enough to say, fuck it, I'm 50 plus and my knees hurt. I'm retired. I'm done.
I have my projects I do, and I'm recovering from my quad injury.
Yeah.
WrestleMania a while
no quads, no knees. Why even do it?
Yeah, why bother?
Now here's an idea. Couple things I had heard thrown out there. Is this all about that Shane wants back in with WWE, and with the new regime between his sister, well, I guess his sister, who knows how she's involved in at all, but she is appearing on camera here and there nowadays. So I don't write out the possibility that she might be involved in some back way. But either way, her husband, or who knows what's going on there too. But if Hunter doesn't have an interest in having him around, and if the new regime doesn't have an interest in having him around, is this as simple as him being like, well, I'm going to go over here and get their attention. So now suddenly they'll care. But why is he over there? What's he over there with them for? We can't have a McMahon somewhere else. And, is he just trying to rattle the cage and being like, hey, you need to give me something to do, because a McMahon on another wrestling program wouldn't look good to TKO. I don't know. You think that could it be as simple as that? As Shane's playing games?
It is possible, but I don't think so. I would hope that it's beyond that, because I think that would just replay a series back in, the mid 90s again, that we don't want to see from this angle. Because I think what we will see is the storyline of, you took my daddy's company away from me, now I'm gonna try to get it back. And I don't know if that would just go over well if we try to use it from that angle. It's possible. I'm not denying it. I just don't think it's in that angle, but it's a good shoot for it, but I just don't think so.
But also about that angle, you got to be at least 30 years old to care.
That's another. Now, let me
ask whole new generation now.
Right. Now, think about over 30. What percent of the wrestling fans out there are over 30, you think?
No, I mean, you said you think, and I'm glad you qualified that, because I would think that everybody's trying to skew younger. Yes, there are us that are older and are long-term fans and stuff like that. Yeah. But they already know what we bring to the table. Yeah. They're trying to get the kids with disposable incomes. Yeah. So, and also the younger than that, because if you have to bring a kid that's under 15 or whatever, that means that at least one parent has to go. Yeah. So for one ticket, you just sold two. With that said, though,
sound like a rated R movie.
Well, yeah, but yeah, exactly. So knowing that, I do think that would be a bit of a stretch to rehash a 20-year-old. That was 2001.
25 years, pretty much.
Yeah. Damn, I'm old. But yeah, that was 2001. Shane popping up at what was it, Bash at the Beach or whatever in Panama
Final
City.
Nitro, Panama City.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a long ass time ago. So I don't know if their core audience, college age kids right now, because AEW, especially if you peek at their ratings, they really love to hammer that 18 to 35, 18 to 49 demographic, where WWE skewers over. So I don't know if rehashing the 25-year-old gimmick that nobody's cared about in 20 years is the way to go with that.
Yeah, I would think the ship has sailed on that. I would hope, and certainly as hot as they are right now, they don't need it. They're not in a position where they need to do something desperate like that. They got plenty of stuff going on, and plenty of irons in the fire, as we'll talk about in a little bit. There's SummerSlam coming up, where it's like there's clear direction coming up, going in. So I have my doubts about that. So, any other thoughts?
Let me ask you this then.
Yeah.
Since we don't think, what do you think they actually talked about? I mean, I don't think that he was begging for a job. I don't think Coach Khan needs business advice from Shane McMahon.
No. But I will say this. I will bring the football angle. I will say that. I will say that's something that they talked about. I'll also say, okay, well, while you're here, Shane, what do you think I can do for said character? What do you think I could do to build up another belt? What do you think I can do in expanding shows? What do you think I could do to get another TV deal? What do you think I can do to build more audience reaction to certain things? Now, those natural conversations may just come up because you're just kicking the breeze with somebody, but I don't think it was an intent of, let me bring you on to hire. It may be just, okay, tell me how you're thinking about our product is. Give me your feedback like a mentor, and let's see how I can fix this or make it better.
Now, let me just add this. Declan McMahon for the University of Indiana, redshirt freshman, did not play in 2023. So
That's 3 years
kind of
eligibility for it, yeah.
Right. So that kind of adds a little bit more sauce to the pot where you have how do where I think it's more of a football thing, like, hey, he redshirted. How do we get his career off the ground and to the next level?
Yeah.
He has 3 years of eligibility plus grad school possibly to figure that out. So so then I guess the last question on this would be, do you think it's their first meeting? It's just the first time they've got caught.
First time they got caught, for sure. Because even like you mentioned, well, I think at the top, just the reaction that Tony had of like, why are you here? It's like, I think it's very natural. Like when you have those type of meetings, you want to make sure you make it as exclusive as possible because, if media gets out or somebody leaks it, it's like these type of conversations will come up. Yes, it could be good, but sometimes it could also look like negative publicity when you want to make sure you keep it top secret.
Well, here's my thing. I don't see that photo getting out unless they wanted it to get out. I think they had very specific reason on both their sides. Like, hey, let's have this little thing and let's push it out here and let just, hey, catch a little bit of attention. Now, our guy PAW, there's a good point. They are both the sons of billionaires who have legacies they are in the shadow of, trying to be successful. So, I mean, they do have a similar growing up story of very successful fathers who they've had to, live their own life of. So that's a very good point. They are both in a very unique situation that they can relate to.
For sure.
Also says this was likely the feeling out period meeting before real business takes place. I can see. Hey, you meet, you kick the tires, you kind of hang out and just see how you vibe, and it's nothing more than that. Maybe it goes somewhere, maybe it doesn't. But yeah,
or then maybe they're further along, and this is the first time we're like, hey. Let's leak this photo, see what the temperature is. Yeah. And then we move from there.
Yeah. We've met a couple times here and there. This time, let's actually give the world a peek.
Yeah, like,
and see. Like I said,
we've met in the Watergate, a couple times already. Let's float this out there and see what happens and then see what people think of it. So who knows? I mean, it could be a month from now, it could be a year from now, but in an on-screen, capacity. Like to take the business out of it.
Yeah.
What does Shane do? Manager of a specific wrestler?
GM. he's the general manager of GM. Collision or something.
Right. I mean that what does he? What role does he serve on TV?
I mean, you don't want that man wrestling, considering what happened to him.
No, God, no.
And a manager that just seems too little. That doesn't seem big enough for his name. Well, here's something. I saw a few people saying this. I won't say a lot, but I saw a few people saying this. Mm-hmm. If a McMahon becomes involved with AEW, is that like kind of going against everything that company was founded on? And like a complete sea change for that company if a McMahon is involved in AEW?
Well, you could argue that with Cody leaving and going to WWE.
Yeah.
I mean, they started out as the not necessarily the resistance, but the
anti
a different way.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's
change the world.
Yeah. They said we couldn't do it. Here we are. And then for whatever reason, officially, Cody says, all right, I'm done here. I'm good. Goes over WrestleMania. Does the thing. Now. Okay, go ahead, Silas.
No. I would no. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Now here's my last question on this. Wembley's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Does Shane make the flight to London?
I wouldn't be surprised.
It wouldn't shock me.
They had Mercedes in the stands.
That Mercedes in the stands last year where she wasn't signed, but look who's here in a luxury skybox. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be shocked.
For sure.
I would not be.
It would be very interesting to see Shane McMahon and Bobby Lashley in a suite together.
So okay, now
that'd be a hell of a visual. This is why I didn't want to jump in then, Jamal, because I figured he was going to say something about that. I think Shane should be a manager, but connected to a wrestler that you want to build up to be on AEW. Now it could be a veteran like Bobby Lashley, like a mouthpiece or something like that, where this is him building up my wrestler, and this is going to be the main event guy. I think that's where Shane fits best. I don't want to see him being a general manager. I don't want to see him being an authority figure.
but let him manage a wrestler that you're trying to build up to be another top guy. I was really thinking on the AEW roster, who is that now? I don't think it's anybody on that roster now. But having somebody like Lashley, kind of like what MVP was doing for Lashley at first, I think Shane could do that. And I think that would be great to see. Now, I will be into that, but I don't need to see Shane every single week. Bobby could be up there by himself a couple of times, but when he's needed, come on down. Let's be that mouthpiece.
And Paul's saying it, WWE Invasion, if you go that route. I don't know. Well, we will see. Time will tell. I think we've done a lot on this and spent the first half hour on it. So,
yeah.
All right, folks, here's what we're going to do. It is halftime. We are going to take our commercial break. When we come back, we will have the Indie Spotlight. And after that, we will get into SummerSlam Weekend and break things down there because there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in Cleveland. So that will be our second half and so much more, folks. Stay with us. We are glad you are here. Your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. We'll be back right after this.
A little birdie told me, everybody, that you may be interested in doing some sponsorship and advertising opportunities with us here at Big Gold Belt Media. You know what? You might as well, because we are the golden standard for all of your media needs. Why would you want to go anywhere else? Besides, all of your pre-roll ads, your mid-roll ads, as well as your on-air reads are going to be done by me, Damian G. Yeah, professional broadcaster, Damian G. We do all types of social media promotions. That means your podcast, your IG, your Facebook, your Twitter, and your business website all get shouted out on our network here at Big Gold Belt Media, where we cover wrestling, movies, comics, and more. And you can find out more information and make those inquiries, kids, because, limited time offer here at biggoldbeltgroup@gmail.com. Again, that is biggoldbeltgroup@gmail.com. Why would you want to go anywhere else? I wouldn't. Well, I work here, but I still wouldn't even if I didn't. So again, Big Gold Belt Media for all your sponsorship and advertising opportunities, your podcast, your IG, your Facebook, your Twitter, all of your social media platforms, as well as any business website you want us to promote on our show. biggoldbeltgroup@gmail.com, and let them know Damon G sent you.
Welcome back, folks. When we come back from halftime here on the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast, we like to check out what's happening on the indie scene. So here's the Giant Crab with this week's Indie Wrestling Spotlight.
tix.mallofamerica.com/wrestle. Write that down. tix.mallofamerica.com/wrestle. You're going to want to go to that website before tickets to First Wrestling's Saturday Night Nitro. That's coming up September 6th for the Fan Fest. That's Friday, September 7th for the actual wrestling show. It's a little over a month from now. It's in the Rotunda at the Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota. Yes, they're doing the Nitro thing and having a live wrestling in the Mall of America. They've done it a couple years in a row. It's a hell of a show. Good crowd, throughout the 4 or 5 levels of the Mall of America. Tickets are going pretty damn quickly. The Golden Circle, which is on the first level, VIP level 1, those are already gone. Don't wonder about those. They're gone. If you're trying to post up on level 2, 3, or 4, level 2 is gone. Level 3 and 4 still remain. $30 for level 3, $15 for level 4. They're standing room only in the mall over the Rotunda on each level. So if you want to get in there, Mall of America, the Rotunda court, you're definitely going to want to do that sooner than later because this thing will more than likely sell out. The Fan Fest is Friday, September 6th. That's the day before. $10 to the Fan Fest. It's at the Nickelodeon Universe, which is a big theme park in the middle of the Mall of America. First Wrestling, Saturday Night Nitro, September 7th for the live show, September 6th for the Fan Fest at the Mall of America, Bloomington, Minnesota, which is south of Minneapolis, right next to the airport, like 10 minutes away if you're driving. Hell of a show. I generally like First Wrestling. A lot of talent has come out of there, not just through there. So one of the coolest venues really in the region. You've never been to the Mall of America, do so before malls generally disappear everywhere. But Saturday Night Nitro, September 6th and 7th, First Wrestling, Bloomington, Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul area. That's where you need to be for First Wrestling in the Mall of America and that's your Indie Spotlight for this week.
A throwback to the premiere of Nitro, which good. We were talking about how old we're getting. 29 years ago, September '95. So we are. I'm like, that's probably why they're running the mall. So like, it ties in with when Nitro launched in '95. Crazy. Time is a flying. All right, this second half, we got a lot to get into. So let's get right to it, because this weekend, it's SummerSlam in Cleveland. Big show. Of course, we got SmackDown the night before, which I want to have SmackDown involved in this because they very much have the formula now where SmackDown feels like it's kind of the pre-show where you got the tag titles are going to be on there. Big tag title match going on SmackDown between the Bloodline and Gargano and Ciampa. That will all lead in to the next day at SummerSlam. But this is a very interesting card. I'm going to run it down, and I have a very specific question I want to ask. So here's what we're looking at. We got 7 matches on here. We have Damian Priest versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. We got Bayley versus Nia Jax for the women's title. We got Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. We got Cody versus Solo Sikoa for the undisputed WWE Championship. We have Logan Paul versus LA Knight for the U.S. title. Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title. And the only match on the show that is not a title match, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre with Seth Rollins as special referee. Here's my question. What's the main event of this show? Because I'm looking at this and I see 3 matches that are jumping out at me as like, it could be any of these 3, maybe even 4 looking at it. What is the main event on this show? It's not necessarily, I think, a title match, even though there's 6 of them. But this is a very, the way this show has been promoted and what seems like it's the hottest stuff, I don't think there's a clear path here for what has to be the main event.
I do. I really think I can tell you what's going to open. I think tell you what's going to end the show.
Let's hear it.
Opening the show is going to be CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre with Seth Rollins as a referee, because I think that is something that's going to be hot as one of the best feuds coming into SummerSlam. I think that would be something to get the show started, to set the tone of how the show will be. I think the closing match has to be Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa because of the potential of Roman Reigns if he decides to return in whatever capacity of how you end the booking of that show. So you start the show with the hottest feud, and you end the show with possibly the hottest wrestler you want to see in return. 2 big pops to sandwich the show. The middle, you could shuffle around however you want it. And I think that is going to be how that is booked.
I think you open the show with Logan Paul versus LA Knight.
That's not bad, too.
And the reason why? One of the reasons why I think it's going to be a pretty hotly contested match. But also Logan Paul from Cleveland.
Local tie-in. There you go.
Yeah, so you got your local guy. He come in as the champion. It'd be interesting to see how the crowd gravitates towards that. LA Knight, another guy that's hell of a run right now. So I think you open with that just to get the crowd extra amp, and then you keep moving.
And just to add to, Miz is from Cleveland too, and he's hosting SummerSlam.
Okay, I was about to say, where is the Miz on this card?
Yeah, he's hosting. He's our host.
Okay. And
he'll be involved in some way, I'm sure.
And then also, is there room for Alexa Bliss?
Ooh.
She's from Columbus.
And she's been training. The timing. Maybe even the night before on SmackDown. Never know.
Right.
Yeah.
So, just another incentive for the crowd to react, and that's what WWE wants. As far as closing the show, I think you got to go with the Bloodline Championship, especially if you reintroduce Roman into the fray. I don't see anything else compares to that. As far as above the match before that, I think you go Punk versus McIntyre. It's this is how WWE is doing something right. Punk versus McIntyre has been a hell of a feud, but I don't know if that's the biggest feud on the card so far. So it's a hell of a blow-off match. So important that they're having the match on the pay-per-view, even though every other match beside it is a championship match.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but I still think you, especially if you're going to reintroduce Roman, it's Cody versus Solo for the Bloodline Championship, and then everything else before that you probably do what's the World Heavyweight Championship? It's
Damian Priest and Gunther
versus Gunther. I think you might do that. Maybe you do CM Punk versus McIntyre before that match, before the main event.
Okay, let me throw this in here because I haven't heard it mentioned yet. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley has been a really hot feud. You have the Dominic involvement where they got the whole how the joke is gonna be the custody of Dominic match running back to SummerSlam 2005. Where does that fit in here? Because I could see that possibly going on right before the main event, maybe even.
Only because Punk versus McIntyre is such a big blow-off feud. Then would I stick that just before the main event? And only the reason why Cody versus Solo is the actual main event is because of the implication that Roman could be reintroduced.
It's the afterwards. It's not so much the match. It's the aftermath.
Yes, exactly. So in the post-match, that's how I would end the show, with whatever that's going to be. So where does Liv and Rhea end up? I think that's a good end to a solid feud, but I don't think nothing should needs to go further than that. So wherever they put it in the show, it's not nearly as consequential as or as long lasting as Punk versus McIntyre or certainly Solo versus Roman.
I think you'll probably place it, and you know how WWE does things. They just like they do their shows. They're hot open, your main event, and then at that middle of the time period, you have that filler. That's just a good transition up to different type of matches. And I'm not saying this is like a transition match or a bathroom break or anything of that nature. I think it's going to be a really good match, but I think it's not going to be of the level where this is going to end. I think this storyline will continue. And since it continues, I think you'll see it go right in the middle.
I could see it being it'll either be before or after whatever the mid-show break is. Yeah. If they have some deal with them, because they got to do something with the Miz. With him hosting the show. So it'll probably be after whatever the Miz segment is. Miz is probably going to interview someone or something. Something's going to happen to Miz on the show and have some speaking part in the middle of things. You probably put it after that. Probably.
And I really hope, since the Miz is hosting it, that this is more of a the pre-Hall of Fame induction ceremony for the Miz. They don't need him there. I mean, they don't really need a host, but since it is in his hometown, since it is in, it's him speaking to Cleveland, speaking to his people, and he is the Miz. So I would hope that this is kind of they do a lot of different things with the Miz and his career. So, bring out R-Truth for a segment, bring out Maurice for a segment. It would be interesting to see how they do that. And then, of course, Logan Paul's going to be there. So it would be interesting to see, how Miz 1.0 and Miz 2.0, interact with each other on the same plane. Both,
bring back the Miz Stun Devil. Bring back the Miz Stun Devil
too. So yeah.
All right, I like your idea of Punk and McIntyre opening, and then Cody and Solo closing. I think now that we've laid this all out, I'm like, the only way Cody and Solo, I think, doesn't make sense closing the show is if for some reason Roman isn't returning here. And we're holding that off longer. Which, I mean, hey, it's possible, but as big as this show is, it's the end of summer. It's a big stadium show. My guess is they'll pull the trigger on Roman showing up here. Then we'll begin the slow burn of what's up with OG Bloodline versus New Bloodline. But all he's got to do is show up and kind of give Solo Sikoa the look like, what the hell are you doing? That's all we got to get here.
Is presuming that Cody wins.
Right. That I said too. Yeah. That's if Solo suddenly becomes champion on Saturday night, that's a whole nother wrinkle in this. That would be an interesting twist.
The only reason why I don't think Solo wins, because I think when you have Randy return, you have to set him up against Cody for that storyline to move.
There's other things for Cody to do, and the Bloodline versus Bloodline 2.0 deal, it don't need the title right now.
It does not.
That's now we know War Games will be in Vancouver in November. It's like the all roads kind of probably lead there to that.
Right.
Well, if it's in Vancouver, they better watch out. Well, Jay Uso, he could probably make it now, but they just want to make sure he can cross that Canada. He did to Toronto, but we just got to make sure he gets to Vancouver too.
There we go. All right. Anything else on SummerSlam? Or are we switching gears here?
So I will just give a shout out, just small shout out to Damian Priest. Now, we have talked about how his title reign may have not been the most glorious. Is he, kind of making a name for himself? I'm really starting to dig what he's doing now. It's like something's starting to click, and I'm actually rooting for him to kind of beat Gunther to try to continue this reign because of what he's doing. Even some of his social media, he has natural charisma that's just untapped, and I think he's finally letting it loose based on how this storyline with Judgment Day is going. I really like how they have these different avenues of Judgment Day. So I'm really liking what he's done. Now, he doesn't need to hold the title for too much longer, but I think having Gunther chase a little bit make this more impactful for him since he's now coming back on TV a little bit since he had that break after King of the Ring. He lost that momentum. I just wanted to give a shout out to Damian Priest on how he's been working.
Yeah, hey, if anything, he's had a longer run than I expected it.
Yep.
I didn't think he'd still be champion all the way here now in August, but here we are, and I think he's grown in to the role as the months have gone on.
Yeah.
So that's my thought. I don't know. All right. We switching gears?
Yep.
Time to switch gears. All right. Let's talk about Joe Hendry. We know we believe in Joe Hendry on the show. Damian is not here tonight to have his doubts about Joe Hendry. But Joe Hendry had an interesting interview this week where he shed some light on the situation that's going on with the NXT TNA deal, and specifically his situation. Now, I pull this up here. Here's his quote from this week on his agreement that they currently are working under. Quote, I'm in a situation where we're having historic collaboration between TNA Wrestling and WWE. We're in a situation where TNA Wrestling have worked it out with WWE where I can appear on TNA Wrestling as a contracted talent. I can appear on NXT, and I can train at the Performance Center full time and do endings and do signings. This is unprecedented. End quote. The part that jumped out to me there when I saw that, 'cause I mean, we knew about all the TV stuff, didn't know about the behind the scenes stuff. Joe Hendry training at the PC full time while being a TNA contracted talent. To me, it opened up the ideas like, okay, is this the path forward for this deal? Could we see the other members of the Rascals in the same situation? And is this possibly is this creating a pipeline? Because once I hear you're training at the PC full time, that really sounds like this is more than you're just, appearing on our shows. This is, we have a vested interest in you. So, I don't know, thoughts, guys.
Crab, I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that Joe Hendry has this deal, and I also think it's interesting that I wouldn't be surprised rather if it extended to other prominent people in TNA. But we didn't hear if Jordan Grace has the same deal. We didn't hear if anyone else would have the same deal going forward. So I wonder. If this is kind of like WWE's subcontracting. Like they don't have to take on the full. They're using TNA as a temp agency, basically. They don't have to take on the full contract of Joe Hendry and give him whatever benefits that he would be entitled to as a WWE employee. But they basically said, we'll give you a membership to the PC. Come through. You could be on in NXT, which isn't really of any consequence to WWE, and we'll send you back to Impact, no problem. The WWE gets the wrestlers that they want, already boxed up, ready to add water and serve. TNA gets their talent on WWE TV. It's really the best of both worlds for both parties involved. Not everybody should or will get that generous of an offer, but it really does feel like WWE is kind of using them as a staffing agency, real quick to see, not necessarily to test the waters, because the only thing they have to do is say, we're interested and you're going to come through for a trial. But now with this, they can just, have a floater come in, insert them into a position. All right, well, we don't need you anymore, or we'll see you next year. That was a good 6 weeks. So it really sounds like they're subcontracting the contractors.
And just to add too, I noticed it for the first time. I'm not sure if it happened before, but when Joe Hendry came on screen, it had the graphic word TNA Wrestling Joe Hendry. So it wasn't like NXT Joe Hendry. So in a way, I wanted to hear you first, Crab, because I was like trying to think about how this benefits. I know we naturally know how it benefits on both sides, but I'm thinking, for example, because you brought this up in a chat, Will, when his contract expires, does that mean he's a shoo-in for WWE, or will he resign for TNA because of what he's doing now? And it's like, I just want to see how it goes from there, because if this goes to the point where I'm staying with TNA and I'll make my appearance on WWE on the side, is this really working for Joe Hendry? Like, what is his purpose, or what is his outcome for trying to do this route? That's what I want to see. I know how the businesses are benefiting, but Joe Hendry, what do you want as a benefit? That's my question.
Let me ask you this. Is this contract tampering? Because
not if all sides involved are okay with it.
Right. So normally you would have this deal where you couldn't talk to somebody under contract. They would have to become a free agent before you can make them official offers.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, that if you invite them in and do work on the side and, test the thing. I wonder if this gets around that idea that this is contract tampering, where
I would say it probably simply comes down to, as long as the person who holds the contract isn't saying, hey, you're tampering, then it's like, you have my blessing,
Well, sure. But that's to say that this sets a precedent where if WWE likes you, they want to offer you a deal. They obviously want to use your services immediately, but can't because of contracts. And then they cook up an agreement with your original company and them to do a thing. Jordan Grace, Trinity, whoever, all of them, right? They come over. Speedball, maybe in the future, hopefully. But the point is that instead of waiting for a 3-year contract to end, they just say, come on over to the Performance Center. We treat you right.
You get your internship.
Yeah, you want a segment on NXT? Cool, no problem. Hell, we'll pay you for that too.
Yeah.
We'll give you billing as TNA superstar, whoever. No problem. And then, of course, the day that their contract is over, now that you've seen that the grass could be greener on the other side, you go,
you bait them.
You're not just dangling the carrot, you're baking a carrot cake.
Right. But here's the thing. This can cut both ways.
Mm-hmm.
One way it can cut is, we get you in here. We like what we see. You wait out your contract. As soon as this comes, you have a deal waiting for you. Boom. You jump ship and you're done and you make the move. And you come right through the pipeline. On the flip side of that, we give you your little taste here. You come through the PC. We see what's up. We kick the tires. And we're like, oh, you know what? Nah, this ain't it. After your little month or so trial here, nah, this ain't for us. And then as far as it goes, and you go back to TNA with no chance of going through the pipeline. It can go both ways.
Right. But you see how that idea benefits WWE, though, because of the fact that they already
hold all the cards. Yeah.
They hold all the cards, and they get to, to have their prospective talent already do the work before it's official, and then can say for no reason, like, hey, it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
Well, goddamn. So I wonder if this is now, obviously nobody's suing each other. So, and this is agreed upon, and the talents and literally everyone involved is okay with it. But I wonder, big picture thinking, long-term goals for WWE in this is that they get the literal talent that they want. They get to cherry pick and say, we're going to bring you in. They don't. So that's another thing too. You know how much time it saves them, WWE? Because they don't have to refresh Joe Hendry to the WWE market. He's already had a show. He's going to have a segment, a single segment. NXT, I think this week. So you already get to mold them into the people, fast track them to NXT, and then easily integrate it into the locker. How many to the locker room? How many NIL people have we seen make a debut? And we're waiting for them a year or two or so.
Yeah. They're training in the PC, but they haven't made TV yet.
Right.
Maybe Level Up if they're lucky.
Exactly. So, and that's another reason why Level Up is created with this. And yes, granted, who is to say that it would stop at TNA? They could go into GCW and say like, yo, we like this guy. and we want to bring this guy in. It would be a boon to your company and put you guys on the map, whatever. But we get to get this guy, though. We want to run him for the summer.
Hey.
Well, right. Bloodsport, GCW, hell, DDT in Japan. I mean, there are a number of companies that would love the rub from WWE everywhere in the world. WWE says, yes, send them. We'll give them back to you in one piece, but send them. And then, of course, after that, they go, well, yay or nay on fully integrating them. Yeah. It's cutthroat from on a WWE's perspective, but damn, we haven't seen this before.
No, it's interesting.
It's very interesting.
Definitely interesting. I don't know. We'll see. This is definitely a developing story, and hey, he threw that interview out there this week, and I was like, oh, this is a new wrinkle we hadn't heard about. So I think we're going to be hearing more stories like this as this goes on. So I don't know. We got a few minutes left. We got some quick hits we want to get into before we wrap this thing up.
Vancouver, Survivor Series. Do you like it?
I'm kind of surprised. It kind of feels like, Vancouver of all places?
International series.
Right. I think it's interesting because remember a couple months ago, we were talking about the prospect of WrestleMania being in London. Yeah. And then of course we had the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, come out and say, yeah, hell yeah, we want WrestleMania in London.
Yeah, they had a meeting. There's been a meeting there.
And then there's been a meeting. And then now we have Survivor Series in Vancouver. And then we had like the idea, well, what about the Big Four? WrestleMania is going to stay in America, but the Big Four, we may see. Who knew that would be this year?
Yeah.
They're moving quick.
Yeah.
What was the Royal Rumble this year? What was the Royal Rumble this year?
Tampa?
It was Tampa.
Yeah, it was in Florida.
It was Tropicana Field, I think.
But next year it's in
Indy. The next couple years, I think, is in Indy.
Indianapolis. That's right, Indianapolis. Okay, I do remember that.
Yeah,
okay.
This is the first of the Indianapolis deal because Indianapolis is getting the Rumble and then 2 more major events over the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sound like a long-term deal with Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, for major car for like a SummerSlam or they said
because they're not getting WrestleMania.
Yeah, they basically said we're start with Rumble and you'll get comparable events over the next 2 or 3 years, like 2 more of them. So
and that was about the time. That was about the time we started thinking like, well, would you wake up at 2 p.m. for an 8-hour long WrestleMania on a Saturday?
Yeah, and at the time we were like, we couldn't envision it being outside of the States because of the media stuff.
Right.
But now that they've had this meeting, I remember I was thinking at the time, I was like, I think it's very clear if the price is right, it's gonna happen.
Right.
They just need the right deal to make it worth their while. But TKO, the money's the bottom line with them. You give them enough money, they're gonna come. So I think it's pretty much we're gonna get WrestleMania overseas. If it ain't London, it's gonna be Saudi. It's gonna be one of the two.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's also a thing too, because the Saudi events, they've been the kingdom has been kind of balking at the fact that they're not getting these high impact events. Well, you had 10 years of your own show. Well, yeah, but we know these shows don't mean anything, so we want an actual show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So a premium live event in the kingdom. Okay, cool, interesting enough. SummerSlam Survivor Series this year in Vancouver, which means that those conversations must have been taking place over the course of this whole year. We're in July, August already. So I'm really interested to see, sooner or later, especially on the back of that backlash in Southern France. I think the Germany show is coming up this month.
That's the next one after SummerSlam.
Yeah, so that's coming up this month. So WWE is definitely on the move, and at first we would agree that hey, WrestleMania outside of the U.S. in a wildly different time zone than the U.S. It sounds crazy, but
it could work.
Backlash happened. This Germany thing is going to happen. We've had a ton of shows in Saudi Arabia, which is further east than London is.
And look at the Olympics; they've been well watched too in Paris, 6 hours ahead. They've been well watched live.
Yeah. So it's and then of course that will be WWE is going to be on Netflix already and stuff like that. So who knows what the landscape is going to look like after all of these television deals fall through? So get your passport ready. They may be going to London Stadium, Wembley, Trafford, something like that.
The times they are a changing, and they are changing fast. So there you go. We made it to our hour. Fast show tonight. We got next week will be interesting because we'll have the fallout of SummerSlam. We'll see if there's any more of this drama with Shane O'Mac.
Yeah, Shane debuts as the CEO.
There is stuff going on. It is going to be the next month on the road to Wembley and AEW. Fallout of SummerSlam. If a tribal chief returns, lots of moving pieces as we come out of summer here. As we get into the dying months of the heat, like we said at the start of the show. Please. All right, folks. Thursday night, 8 p.m. We are here each and every week, your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast. If you don't want to hear it live, we got it on video. We got it on streaming. We got it on all the darn different sites. YouTube, Twitch. Let's see what else. I will see what I'm forgetting. YouTube, Twitch. Of course, we're streaming on X. SoundCloud. Podcast version drops the next day. If you just want the audio, we got that too. But Thursdays live, 8 p.m. is when you get the original version. Otherwise, the video lives on YouTube. You can check it out there each and every single week. BigGoldBelt.com is the website. Wrestling, movies, comics, and more. Our man 2 Chains was in the room last week when Robert Downey Jr. made his big return. So all your Comic-Con coverage was on there. We don't just do wrestling, folks. All kinds of stuff. So check it out, BigGoldBelt.com. And, of course, on the socials at Big Gold Belt across the board. So until next week, thanks for joining us. Watch some wrestling this weekend. If you're not watching SummerSlam, Collision's going to be on too earlier in the day. G1's going on over in New Japan. There's all kinds. Too much wrestling to keep up with is the story I think we run into each and every damn week here. So, but thanks for joining us. We will talk to you next week. And until then, stay cool, and we'll talk to you later.